Okay, so in the previous chapter in the VLOOKUP and the match, we talked about the use of VLOOKUP. We talked about the use of match. We talked about the combination of it, and I said that in the next chapter we will be going to merge. We will be going to combine the formulas, right? Now, I will go ahead. I will go and talk about how to use the match inside the VLOOKUP. But before we do that, I want to make you familiar with the couple of rules which you always keep in mind while working with the VLOOKUP. Okay, so the first thing which you always need to understand in VLOOKUP is, now let's say I write here status male, 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 it's a female. This is the status. This is one more header I have added here, which is coming before the lookup value. Now you have here employee ID, which is 100. You have here employee ID, which is 69. You have here employee ID 439, 103, and then 200. And then you have here age. Then you have here, status, and let's say maths. Now let's understand the rules. Let's understand the complications we are going to get first of all while using the VLOOKUP. Now the thing is, one more thing I want to do here to make this situation more complex, I go and write the name as well. So I'm going to write here employee ID 100 as Ajay, and 69 has a name called Prasad, and then similarly the rest all values I'll fill in. Abhishek. Okay, now guys, if I ask you that you want to get the age, status, and the maths, and you have this employee ID and the name. Now before you use the VLOOKUP, you have to decide which header you want to use as a lookup, because you have now employee ID and you have a name here. So the first thing is, let's say you decide that I want to use the name as a lookup. So you start using the VLOOKUP, you go and select the name, which is M9. Now when you decide to use the name as a lookup, please remember in the main table that name should be the first column of your table, like this. You cannot select the table like this, because that makes the lookup name on the second index and the formula will return error. Neither you can select the table like this. The rule is, if my lookup is name, that has to be the first column of my lookup table. And that is a reason when you start the VLOOKUP, like this, if you read the definition of the VLOOKUP, it says looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table and then return a value in the same row from a column you specify. So it's basically looks for this answer. It basically looks for the leftmost column of a table. Leftmost column table means that it's going to look up this from the name. That's how it is. Okay, so that's how you do the things. I start and look up this name, and I go in this table, and I now say that what is my column number. What is my column number? My column number is 2. So I give the column number as 2 and I say exact match. That's how it is. You go and press enter, and obviously now your table will be freezed. We will freeze the table and we will go and start working on it. Now in this situation, please understand, we know the concept that the VLOOKUP, in the VLOOKUP table, lookup value of your table should have the first leftmost column in primary table when you select the table. That is the first thing, otherwise error will come. Now there is another challenge. Age is fine, but you cannot get the status, because if you go and let's say use the VLOOKUP and you say that I want to pick up name, if the name starts from here and if we have a condition that the name should be the leftmost column, you cannot go and select the table like this, because you need the status, because that makes the name on the third column index number. We want this name to be first, so table always move left to right, they don't move in the reverse direction, right? So if your value, if your header which is coming before this header, before this name, it has to be on the right side of your lookup. That is the challenge now. It cannot work in the reverse direction, right? So what is the solution? The solution is that you may like to use maybe some another function, but right now that will take little time. There is a function in Excel called index that works like Vlookup, and the good thing about the index is it works in all the directions. So Vlookup does not work in the reverse direction. The headers which we need to find out, which we want to evaluate against our lookup value, they should always be in the right side. That is the first thing. So obviously if I have to find this header, I go and copy this and I go and paste it here, because you do not know any other function in Excel as on date, so you don't have any choice. So we now know that the VLOOKUP doesn't work in the reverse direction, and if you have the headers coming before the lookup value, you have to put them on the front of your lookup value, on the right side of the lookup value. Then you can use the VLOOKUP. This is the first thing. The second thing which I want to tell you is, this is a bad choice which I'm using right now, the name as a lookup value. Why didn't I use the employee ID as a lookup? Because employee ID is also available in the main table. If I will be given a choice whether to use the employee ID or name, I will go for the employee ID for sure, because name can be repeated. For example, 100 employee ID has a name Ajay, and maybe some another person, let's say 103, this person also has the same name Ajay. So if you're going to look up this 33, then you will have a problem. The problem is this picks up 33 only, because lookup starts the table from the top and it goes down, and the moment it finds Ajay, it stops, and then it does not go to next Ajay, because the VLOOKUP job is to pick up the Ajay, to look up the Ajay, to find the Ajay. If VLOOKUP finds Ajay, why it will go further down. So what you're learning here, that while making a choice for the lookup values, please make sure first they should be the first leftmost column in your table. The data has to be the right side, whatever data you are trying to find it out. And the second thing is, if they are repeating, VLOOKUP is not a good choice. Though we have ways to sort out those problems, but it will take time. Right now I'm just trying to tell you, name can be repeated, but employee ID is a unique thing. So this is something we need to take care of. Okay, so if I have been given the employee name and the age, I won't do that. I mean, I would definitely go for this employee ID. So I go and change this. So please remember that we make a unique value as our lookup choice, because VLOOKUP does not give correct results when we have repetition in lookup in primary or main table, right? Because if you have here maybe one more Ajay and you are looking for all these three Ajay, better we start and go with the employee ID, because employee IDs are unique, they cannot be same. If you have a company, in a company, if I have my employee ID 100, that employee ID is a unique. It is not going to be given to somebody, right, till the time I'm there. So these are the things you need to take care in mind when you write the VLOOKUP. So my first choice is I will go and use the employee ID as a lookup. The second is that I first make sure that all the headers should be on the right side, which I have already done. I have pasted this, copied this data, and I put it in the front part. Now to use the VLOOKUP, I now go and use the VLOOKUP. I look up my employee ID and I start working on this table. So I go and select the table like this. I'm selecting the entire table. Remember why? Because I need to find the status as well. That's why I'm using the entire table. And then the column number. So what is the column number? Well, the column number should come from where? Well, ideally, if you see, the column number should be 2, because in this table my employee ID is first and this is 2. So you write here 2, 0, isn't it? But now you know we can use the match to find out the position of this header. Match is a function which finds the value, looks up the value in the table and returns us the position. So I say, match, you please pick up this name and please go and start from here. I told you the rule, match only uses one row. We need the exact match, so I write here 0 and I press enter. And by the way, this is wrong because I selected column second. I'm looking for the age. The age column number is 1, 2, 3. This is how it is. Now if you still have a doubt that why it is not 4, because your table has, if you start counting from status, this is going to be 4. Please understand, the table which you are selecting, VLOOKUP work according to that table. If I have selected my table from E, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5th, this is 6th column number. So this is how it is. Now since the job is done by the match, because match also did the same thing, match picked up the age, it went into this table and it found the age and it returned the 3 to me. Now the next time what I do is, before I drag this left to right, I completely freeze the table E2 to J2 so that my table should not move at all. And I don't touch the init part. We learned that day and I hope you have practiced also on this. Now you got here status and then you got here maths. So all the numbers are coming, and this is what we did last time. Instead of this 3, I actually linked it with the N16 to make this dynamic. Now if I drag this down, my N16 will be N17 and ultimately in the N17 I won't find anything. So I have to freeze this N$16. N I will not freeze because moving left to right, N should be O and O should be P. This is how it is. You have to design. What about the E2? If I click on the E2, my table array gets highlighted. This is my table. I completely freeze the table left to right. E should not change to F. Down the line, E2 should not change to E3, E4. What about the L line, guys? L line, you already know, if I go down, it should be L10, L11. My employee ID should change. Let's not touch the row part. Left to right, L line should not be M9 and then N9, the column should remain as it is. Even if you're finding the status or the maths, the employee ID should be 100, right? As long as you are on the same row. So we will freeze this. Nothing new about this. We will freeze the L part. Your job is done, and now you have made the formula dynamic, and you go and drag this, and this is how the formula is going to work. If I show you on the F2 here, it clearly says that VLOOKUP pick up the 200, start finding the 200 in this table. In this table means what? In this table means the first column. By default, VLOOKUP start its search in the first column. That is why we say that you have to make the first column as the leftmost column, the lookup column. VLOOKUP does not go here or here. For example, right now you're looking for 200. For example, I can put the 200 here also. Somebody got scores in maths, let's say 100. Okay, now what to do? Will this change the formula? Of course it will not. Will it change the VLOOKUP functioning style? No, it will not. Why? Because VLOOKUP is going to find out this 200. This 200 here in this employee ID, the first leftmost column of this table, not here or not anywhere else. Okay, VLOOKUP only finds the 200 here. If he gets the VLOOKUP, if he gets the employee ID, good. If he doesn't, then no problem, you will get the NA. So I find my 200, but after 200, now what I will be looking for is, I will be looking for the fourth column of this table, because I need the maths, and match has already returned me the fourth position by looking up maths in this table. Everything is in the, systematically is happening, and that is why you're getting your answer as 23. So we have the 200 as 23. If I go and change anything here, your answer will also change. This is how it is. These are the things you need to take care. Now we will go and use the VLOOKUP and the match together. So this is your VLOOKUP match, sort of revision. This is what we did last time, and also I would say not the revision, but I can say that the rules. Okay, so I go and use the same data. Now I copy this, I create here. I'm going to now put everything in the formula itself. Okay, so let's say we have here table, which is this table. I copy this and I go and paste this, and I go and remove this. So let's say, so for example, now let me do one thing. I just go here, I cut this and I put it here. Now what I do is, for example, this status is here, you have copied this. Let's for the time being remove this. Now what I do is, I put here drawing score, I put here Hindi score, I put here English, I put here economics, I put here physics, and I put here, or maybe physics 1, physics 2, physics 3, sort of that. So let's say we have this table, you have here all these scores coming. Okay, I don't know, these all headers. I go and put some random numbers here. Okay, so to put the random numbers, I can also go and use a function called rand between. This is a function which generally we use to create some junk numbers. Well, don't focus on this. I'm not going to explain you this particular part right now. This is not the topic. I'll tell you maybe some another time, but just I'm getting some numbers here. Now you have a table which has so many columns. Okay, so how you gonna work on it? Well guys, now first of all, you need to see that what you are actually looking forward, what your table says. Your management says that these employee IDs which you have written here, these employee IDs, we need the age, we need the status, we need the maths. Let's say this is the only thing we need. Now if you look at your data carefully, we don't have a status here to the right side of this lookup. First of all, let me just give it a bold color, that this is our lookup. So the table will definitely start from here, not from here, actually from the employee ID. I beg your pardon, because name can be repeated. I do not want to wish to create this as my lookup value. So the table will start from here. Now you can see first of all that the headers which you need, are they to the right side of the lookup? Well, all the headers are there except for the status. Now it's all up to you. Generally people don't, when they copy and paste, when they add anything, they add in the end. So if I have to add this data here, the status, then naturally guys, you have to select this entire table, because you have to cover the status as well. Otherwise, how will you get the column number of the status, right? But let's say you don't need the status this time. I'm just changing the scenario. You need the drawing. Spellings are same, make sure. You need the drawing, and then let me just remove the formula. You need the drawing, and then you need maybe I go and select this couple of cells. Let's say this is the one. Okay, now please understand, this is how your table. Now please understand, looking at these headers, you can select the table from here. This is obviously will be the first point, and I can stop at physics 4, because I know my all the headers will fall under this selection. I'm okay with that. You can manage it. There will be no problem coming, because ultimately you need the column number of age, drawing, maths, physics 2, physics 3, physics 4, and that you can get in this table. So the table is able to locate those headers, right? So there's no problem. If you go and select the table like this, then there will be a problem, because then you will not be able to find out the physics 3 and physics 4 column. Because physics 3, if I have to, let's say you select this table and you say that look up, please pick up employee ID 100, it finds the 100, then now what to do? How will you tell that you have to go to which column? There's no column here of physics 3. That is a problem. So if you select the entire table, we don't have any problem. If you select the table only till this extent, this physics 3, then also we don't have any problem. But giving the extra columns in the buffer won't create any problem, right? But then, who knows, maybe tomorrow your management says that instead of the math, start showing the physics 8 score. Then again you will have to change the formula. So better you plan, when you plan the VLOOKUP, you give the entire table. That's my suggestion. But it's not that every time you need to give the entire table. It's what actually you're looking for is that should be in the table. So if I have, let's say here, a header called maybe this one, let's say physics 17, then definitely if I have to make my formula dynamic, I have to go to the column which covers all these headers, and obviously it's going to be till this physics 17 level, right? So first you decide how you want to do it. Generally what people do is they don't really bother themselves so much on all these things. What they do is they completely select the entire table. Doesn't matter, VLOOKUP will find it out, and that's what I'm gonna do here, right? But conceptually you should know. So I go and delete this row. Let me just give you some more space. Now you see that, guys, now I cannot go and obviously find out the column numbers of this age drawing in this table manually. There are so many headers, but I have my match function. I go and simply say match. First of all, I can use the match also, that's okay. I go and use the match, pick up this age, go in this table, select the entire row because this is where my headers are, and then 0. I press enter, and you can see here I got my age, which is on the third column, which makes sense because this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Similarly, when I freeze this table and I drag this left to right, I will have my all the values coming 3, 6, 4, 11, 12, 13, 26. This is the job of the match. Now if you remember, what I did is I selected the table like this. I'm using some shortcut keys. Now whenever you want to go to the last cell before the blank row comes, for example from here, if I press control down arrow key, it takes me to the last cell. If I say control right arrow, it takes me to the last cell. Control up arrow, control left arrow. This is how it is, right? So you have the shortcut keys: control, left arrow, then right arrow, then down arrow. I don't write all these things separately. Understand, if you use any of the arrow key with the control, it will take you to move to the last non-blank cell. This is how it is. Okay, now what if I have to select the table? Then you press control shift down arrow, control shift right arrow. When you start using the shift key, it selects the data. So if you have to select the data, then use the control shift and then whatever key you want to use. So control shift and then right arrow key or left arrow key or down arrow key, that depends, right? So this is what I did. I said VLOOKUP, I'm going to do VLOOKUP, lookup employee 100, then comma, let's go in the table. Which table? This is my table. Now I will not go and start using this like one by one down arrow key. This is going to take so much time. You will be irritated by this. No, just come here, select this, control shift down arrow, control shift right arrow. I have my table selected, comma. What is the column number? Well, the column number ideally should be the position of your age, which is 3 in this table, but I have already calculated it. So this is my position, this is my exact match. I got my answer. Now F24 D19, we will quickly go and freeze. D19 should be $D19. This is my employee ID. Column, this is my table, I will completely freeze. And F24, this is F24, $24. That's it. We have done this many times. You have the video also available with you, the previous video. Now guys, you can see that I've got my answer. Perfect. Now if I go and change anything here, for example I score, you can see if I change anything here, I have my the answer accordingly, maths, and then let's say I want to say physics 7, physics 8. You see the numbers are changing because your match function is finding out the column numbers for you, because match is actually picking up all these values, this physics 3, this physics 4, and this maths, and so on. This is how it is. It doesn't matter. As I said, did you use any new technology here? No. Whether the data has 10 rows, whether the data has 1000 rows, whether the data has 1 lakh rows, it does not matter. Data is not the problem. Problem is when you don't have the concepts clear. Formula works the same way. If you have a big data, it does not mean that now we have to change the functioning of the formula. We have to change our style of writing the formula. No, that is not what we are going to do. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you can use the match inside the Vlookup. So I go and delete this entire thing. Okay, I have deleted the column, and obviously your Vlookup will not work. So I just go and delete it now here. Now guys, we are not going to use the match function in any other row. My plan is to use the match inside the Vlookup, which I was telling you, which is very simple now if you have practiced on the match function and the Vlookup. So match returns what? I again repeat, match returns the column number of my headers. So instead of me going and looking all the headers one by one manually, I can leave that job to the match. Match does not do anything special. Match only looks up that value in the table. Now if I ask you what is the position of English, or I would say what is the column number of English header in the main table, which starts from here obviously, how you calculate? You start calculating from here 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and you return me the number called 7. What you did, you started in this table searching. Did you go in this table like this? No. Why this table only? Why not this table? Because even that the headers are actually located in this table. So first you have to select the proper table. Once you select that table, then you go and find it out, right? So because I'm not only targeting English, because somebody can say that the match returns the 1, and if I ask why 1, sometimes they say that because if you go in this table, English comes as 1, right? Well, if you go in this table, I agree the position of the English would be 1, but you are forgetting one thing, there are other headers as well. You cannot do this that for economics, for maths, every time you select a different table. That's not true. You have to think from the Vlookup perspective. When you use the Vlookup, it asks you for the column number, and the column number should be given by these headers only. That's why we go in this table, because this table holds all my headers. And why I can't select 2 rows or 3 rows? Because match does not permit us. Match says that if you have to select the table horizontally, it should be 1 row. If you have to select the table vertically, let's say if you are somewhere using the match vertically, you have to only select single table, single column. You can't use more than 1 column vertically. Now let's go and use the Vlookup. So I go and write the formula in the Vlookup here. Lookup. What is my lookup? My lookup is employee ID. My table, this is my table. Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift still pressed, and right arrow. It selects the entire table. Now here comes the important part, column number. Now I am not going to write here anything manually. Neither I'm going to select any cell from here. I know that my column number is going to come from the English, because I want to check where this English actually located. So I go and say match lookup. The good thing about the Excel functions is that when you write the Excel functions, they open the help immediately for you. Now you don't have to remember the function. If you see here, it shows you the match function. That means you are in the match parameter. We know that match has 3 parameter. Lookup value, which value. Now obviously I need this match formula in the Vlookup column index number parameter, which means that I'm interested in finding out the column numbers of these header. So I go and look up this F18, which is English, and then I see comma, and then I go and select this entire table. Control Shift right arrow selects the entire table, just having one row, comma, exact match less than greater. I need the exact match of F18, so I write here 0. I close this. The moment you close, can you see you're back on VLOOKUP, because match parameters are finished, and it tells you that you are on the column index number. So even if you get confused at what was the next parameter, like I forget that what is the next parameter after match, you can see here it tells you that you are on the VLOOKUP's column index number parameter, and you have to go to the range lookup, which is the exact match for the VLOOKUP, which is 0, right? So this is how it is. So if you read this formula carefully, you see I press enter first of all, and I get my answer. I get my answer here. Now if you have to see how the formula works step by step, when you select this cell, you go to the formula, you click on the evaluate formula, and this we will use this we will use this in the coming sessions many times, because this is a great tool. This let me know about the formula functioning. If the formula I want to understand, I can use this. If the formula gives me the error, I want to see what is the issue. Many times this is a great help. Now I click on the evaluate formula, and this is the window which comes in front of you. The underline item is the one which will be executed first when you click on the evaluate. So D19, as you can see in this formula, is going to be evaluated. So let me click on the evaluate. You can see that D19 returns me 100, which is lookup. So I got my 100 as lookup, and then immediately my formula takes me to the match function. The inner function gets executed first, and then the outer functions. Obviously match is a inner function. So now the match will start its job, guys. Match will look up F18. What is in the F18? Click on the evaluate. It's ENG, this one. Match is going to look up this in the E2 to AF2, which is this table, right? E2 to F2, this one. So that means if it finds the ENG there, English header there, this entire thing returns the number to me, which I click on the evaluate. You got your 8. Now once you have the 8, now the VLOOKUP go and find out 100. After finding the 100, VLOOKUP will go in the E2 to AF15 table, which is this entire table, and it will pick up the column number 8. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So here on the 8th column, wherever it finds the 100, which means here in this E column, that's basically is this 86. That is how VLOOKUP returns the 86. Now we will quickly go and freeze the headers. D19 we should freeze like $D19, we know that. E2 to A15 is my table array of VLOOKUP function, this entire thing. You can see here this one. We have to freeze this completely. I go and completely freeze this. Let's talk about the match. When you click here, you start getting the parameter name. Just in case if you forget, you can click on that. Now this is my match function because it highlights match. Lookup is the parameter because it is bold, which is this. Left to right, this should be economics, maths, physics. So that means F should not be freezed. F should be G, H, I, J, K, and so on. But if you drag this down, F18 will change to F19 and then F20. So your lookup will change. You always need to look up English as long as you're moving in this column, because even if I have employee ID 100 or 69 or 439, they all fall in the same column number. Column number of English is same for my all the employee IDs. So we have to make sure that this dollar sign would not change. 18 row number should not change. So I'm going to freeze this. E2 to AF2 completely freeze because this is your match table, this one. If I go down, it should not be like this. And if I move left to right, it should not be like this. This will be wrong, right? So I'm going to freeze this completely. I press enter. Now you can go and drag this and you can see that finally we have got our entire table coming here. And this is dynamic, guys. If you go and change this, let's say I copy this and I paste it here, you see the numbers are changing. If I go and say H, if I go and say something else, maybe science, you see that the numbers are coming. Hindi, right? So your formula is dynamic. This covers your entire VLOOKUP. Of course, now we will be going and talking about the challenges, but as of now, you have made your VLOOKUP dynamic. The headers get changed, the VLOOKUP will give you a different value using the match function. And talk, you see, I create here one sheet. Let's do some exercise on VLOOKUP, interesting one. So let's say, guys, I have here name Ajay, Ramesh, Ankit, this is how it is, okay? And I have their marks. Now you have here name and you have here marks. I'm doing something now like this: Ajay, and then Matt, or maybe Ankit, okay? And I have more Ajay, one more Ajay here. Now this is just, I'm doing this exercise to make your concepts clear. Practically this is not possible what I'm going to do, but you should understand, and I'll tell you the reason why it is not possible, why it is not going to be a good idea, but at least we should understand the concept. Now let's say they say that you have 3 Ajay here, you have 3 Ajay here, and you want to find out their marks, and you know all Ajay are different. Unfortunately, you don't have any unique identifier. Now when you don't have, you can't create it, as simple as that. Even if I have, let's say, employee ID here, for example, I have employee ID, all these employee IDs, maybe this is my 1000, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, right? But as long as I have not been given the employee IDs, how can I set up the relationship? It's of no use for me, right? I can't. I only have the name common, and the challenge with the name is they are repeating, you know that. That means when you say the VLOOKUP, that look up this Ajay, now see I'm starting the table from here, employee ID will not be a part of it, and now 2 comma 0 is just a one header, no need to use the match. This is how it is, right? And you freeze the table then. Now obviously you will get here 44, 44, 44 and 33, 33 because Ankit scores 33 here. So VLOOKUP will not go here. Same for Ajay. 44 stops the function. It does not go here. But if I do something like this, that I try to make them unique. For example, you let Excel know that this is different Ajay, this is different, and this is different. And same sort of thing you communicate here also, that this is different Ajay, this is different, and this is different. Then the VLOOKUP will work for you. But how we can do that? We can say by words, we have to do some action. Now see guys, what I'm going to do, this is a small table, so I can do this manually. If it is a big table of 100, 200, 300, 500, 1000, 10,000 rows, obviously this is not a good approach. But we have a ways to do everything. Remember this point, there's nothing impossible. We can do everything in Excel. And if something which we can't do in the Excel, we can use the programming, VBA. But anyways, let's come back to the topic. Now what I do, I see that this is my Ajay 1, this is my Ajay 2, isn't it? And this is my Ajay 3. Writing them manually, as I said, it's not a good idea if you have a big data. Let us just understand the concept. This is my Ramesh. Well, I'm not here, finding the Ramesh, so let's not even touch that. Ankit. This is my first Ankit and this is my second Ankit, right? Now guys, here also I will write, this is my first Ajay, this is my third Ajay, this is my second Ajay, third Ajay, and this is my first Ankit, this is my second Ankit, right? Why I'm doing this? You know what? If I join this cell and this cell, this cell and this cell, it will be a unique combination. Now how we can join the cells? Let me introduce you to the AND operator. This AND we use to join the multiple cells. For example, I'll give you a very small example. I say E3 AND. Now this AND key you use by using your number keypad 7. But just use the shift key with that, right? So E3 and F3 and marks. You're telling the Excel to join them. So what you'll get? You'll get them like this. Simple. So you can use the concatenate function also. Concatenate is a function which simply says, you can see here text 1, text 2, comma, then dot dot dot. So if you press dot, you can concatenate as many text as you want. So I'll show you. So you can say this employee ID, comma, text 2. What is my text 2? This is the one. Text 3, this. This is how it comes, right? But people generally use the AND. Like AND is simple. I mean, you just go and use the AND and then this and then this. Your choice. Now let me go and join them. Ajay and this one. Now what you got, guys? Ajay 1, Ajay 2, Ajay 3 and Ankit 1, Ankit 2. This is blank, so that's why you don't get anything with the PUP name. Same for the mat, because they are blank. But do you understand what we are doing? Now VLOOKUP will be able to distinguish between all these Ajays, because they are not Ajay, they are Ajay 1, Ajay 2, Ajay 3 and Ankit 1 and Ankit 2. But then if you have created this header, you have to create the same header here also, because VLOOKUP needs the to interact between these two tables. VLOOKUP need something common and unique. So we can do and join these as well, like this. Now I will use my VLOOKUP here. VLOOKUP, pick up this now, I9. Since you are using this, you have to start the table from here, because this becomes the leftmost column, right? So we have to go to the marks. So naturally you have to cover the entire table, because marks is on the last column. And now the column number would be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Freeze the table and now drag it or double click here. Do you see the 44 again? No. you see all values different. Now again I'm repeating, I have done everything manually here. And if you have 1,000 records and in those 1,000 records Ajay is scattered in the different rows, maybe on the 500 row, 700 row, you won't go to every row and start writing 1 2. We have a way to automate that as well, but right now just learn the manual part and understand the concept. VLOOKUP can work if you VLOOKUP can work on the repetition, if you can somehow make them repetitions, if you can turn them into unique values, like we did this. I just went and I written 1 2 and 3 here, and same I did here. So 1 2 3 made them unique when I concatenated them. This is how it is, the VLOOKUP. Now sometimes people ask me that if the data is in the different sheet, then how we are going to use the VLOOKUP. Same way, for example, this is your data and this is where you want to use the VLOOKUP. Will my functioning change? Of course not. If I have here employee ID, the same table I'm using, let's say this is, I'm just using this table, control copy, paste it here, and I go and change this to, let's say, Abhishek. Small table, I'm using very small table. As you saw, it does not matter. And here I want to find employee ID, 400, 200, maybe 100, and I want to find what? I want to find their name and marks. Okay, so name and marks. How we are going to do it? Most of the time guys, your data is always on the different sheet. This is also true. You don't find the data on the same sheet every time. People like to keep the data on the different points, and you should actually. So how are we going to start this now? First of all, let me check. Do we have all the employee IDs here? 400, 200 and 100. Yes, 400, 200 and 100 we have. Now before I go and start using the VLOOKUP, I want to tell you something. Whenever you link any cell, with another cell, you know how the function comes, how the formula comes. Equals to D3. There's nothing new in it. It tells me that it is coming from D3. But if you link the same cell D3 of different sheet, then how the formula appears? See this. Equals to, I go in this sheet and I select D3 or any cell, doesn't matter. Press enter. Can you see the difference? I remove the equals to show you. When you link any cell with other cell, if it is within the same sheet, you won't get the sheet name. But if it is coming from a different sheet, you get the sheet name along with the sign of exclamation. So if somebody asks you what is the difference between these two formulas, you can tell them that the first one is within the sheet, the second is coming from the different sheet. And if they ask you what is the sheet name, then VLOOKUP obviously. And if they ask you what is the sign of exclamation, well, this is a by default sign which comes with the sheet name. It has nothing to do with the sheet name. Even if you go and select this sheet, sign of exclamation will always be there. Let's say go and select this cell, press enter. Sign of exclamation will always be there, right? This is how it is. It is there. Not sure if you have noticed it, but let me just tell you. If you look at the formula bar here, you see the single quotes, but in this there is no single quote. This is also the external sheet. This is also the another sheet. but then why this gap? You don't have to worry about it. It's just a way Excel uses the reference of the sheets. If you have a space in the sheet name, single quotes will be inserted. You can't stop it. Okay, in this sheet I have a space. If I go and remove this like this, and I go back to my this sheet here, and now I go and redo the same thing. See this? Can you see the quotes? There is no quote coming, right? But if there is a space, the quote will come, but we don't have to worry about it. So same way now guys, with the same concept you start using the Vlookup. So let's go and use it. I go and start writing Vlookup. Lookup, what you want to look up? Obviously my employee ID. H5, right? Okay. Where is your table? Table is in the data sheet. You have to select it obviously. To select it, you have to go there. So go there, click there. When you click there, sheet name automatically gets inserted with the sign of exclamation. It is a good thing. It is telling us that the data would come from this sheet. Now, how do you select the table? If you know the rules, if you are a champion in the Vlookup, you simply go and select the table. Now, comma. What is the column number now? Column number, if you want to write manually, you are finding the name, so you can write here 2 also. And you can say exact match 0, and you just press enter, and you know, the moment you press enter, you will be back on your sheet. Excel will push you back to your original sheet. That's how you can do it. If you want to make this function dynamic using the match, let's say there are many headers, so you know how to do it. Match, what you want to look up? Name. This is my header. Where, again comma, lookup array comes. Where, go to the data sheet, select this entire table, comma, the last parameter of match, match type, exact match, no parameter, close it. Range lookup is already there, the exact match for the Vlookup. Press enter, you are done. I don't think so anything new I have done it. If you go and read this formula, and if you have to explain somebody walked up to you and he's new to the Excel, she's new to the Excel, how will you explain the formula? You will first look up that, you know, the data is coming from the data sheet, right? So if they ask you that this data is coming from where, because right now if you press F2, obviously you will not see any table getting highlighted here guys, because that's on the different sheet, right? So you can tell them that you can look at this, click here, table array, this is coming from data sheet D2 to F6. So you can go and click on the data sheet and you can find out where that table starts, ends, and you can tell that person this is the data we are using. And same for the match. I4 is we are looking up I4 where? In the D2 to F2, that comes from the data sheet. So rest remains everything same. I go and freeze $H5. I go and freeze the Vlookup table D2 to F6, the complete table. In the match I4, this one lookup, this has to be marks when I move left to right, so I should not be freezed. But if I go down, I4 should not be I5 or I6. So we go and freeze this I4, right? The same concept. And I go and completely freeze D2 to F2, which is in the data sheet where the match goes and find out the name. So you have done your job. I think the formula should now work if your references are correct. So there's nothing different. There's no difference, you know. There's no difference. You use within the sheet or across the sheets, it's going to, the concept remains the same. Now, for example, HR and you guys, MIS team, let's say, always reconcile the data. You always match your numbers whether they are correct or not. HR is obviously a department which keeps always a record for the employee IDs, if they are active, they are inactive, they are on the notice period, so on. Now let us say HR shared this list with you guys, and HR said that these are the employee IDs which as on date are active in our system, right? Now in the January month you had a different list. In the February they given you a different list, revised list I mean. So all the resignations, abscondments they have removed from their list. So this is the HR list. Now on the other side guys, you have your own list, isn't it? Let's say your list is here, my own list, and in this list now you have some employee IDs which are there, like these are the ones I'm writing. Okay, so this is my list. Now the question is, what I want to know from you, if you want to check what all IDs are inactive in your list now, they are no more with the system, using the HR list which forwarded you the active list, how will you do it? How will you let the HR know that these were the employee IDs, or maybe your department, your manager, how will you inform that these employee IDs no more active with us? HR forwarded me the active list of the employees, and I have a list where some IDs may not exist in the HR list, and some may, or maybe all of them can also exist, I do not know. But I am supposed to regularly update my database also. So I want to quickly go and check all my employee IDs. If they exist in the HR database, they are active. If they don't exist, they are inactive. And eventually after finding the inactive ones, I will go and remove them. This is the job I am supposed to do. I reached out to HR and I said that give me your active list for the February month, and they forwarded me this list in a different Excel file, and I then copied it and pasted in my own this sheet. So on the column A I have their list which is active, and in the column D I have my list which I believe by the end of the January they were all active, but now it is February, so I may have some IDs which now no longer exist in the HR list, and that will happen only if they are made inactive by the HR, because the list which I have got from HR, that is now active. Now we will go and use the Vlookup. Now guys, we know this is all active, and this may be active or maybe inactive or maybe both. I do not know. I go and say that I want to look up 44. Where? In my this table, HR table. And then which column number? Well, it's just a one column obviously, so you use the one. But that does not mean that if it has two headers, then I will write there two. For example, what they did, they given you department also, for example, or date of joining, whatever. This is how they given you the list, and you also paste it as it is. So we have operations, WFM, so this is how it is. Okay, now the question is, let's say you have the HR list also, you have the department also. Now when you go and select the Vlookup, as I always say, the header decides what you want to cover in the main table. Lookup remains the same. Now I can go and select the entire cell like this, the entire table like this also, not a problem, as long as I'm giving the column number 1, because we write the column number here 1 basis what we want to find it out. Now you want to find this employee ID in this table itself. So this is acting like a lookup also, and also once it finds it, you want this value back. That's why you don't write here 2, you will write here 1. So this selection does not matter to me, right? So if it does not matter to me, why would I go and select that? Maybe I can manage it with this. It's all up to me what I want to do, right? But the column number will remain 1. So I go and write here 1, 0. Now what happens, VLOOKUP finds out the 44 for you. Start the search here. Now when the VLOOKUP starts search here, because this is the leftmost column, VLOOKUP finds the 44 here. Now once the VLOOKUP finds the 44 here, VLOOKUP now see what my user want in return, and user has put the column number 1. So this is the column number 1 itself, and that's why you get this value back. You already given me the correct answer on this, so I will not explain this. I completely freeze the table. But now wherever the VLOOKUP is unable to find the IDs, we will have the NA. Now these NAs are the ones which are actually inactive now. If I go and consider the HR list, so I can pick up this 500 and I can pick up this 887, and I can tell my team or whatever, if I need to do something with these IDs. Now one thing I want to tell you here, this list can be long. Maybe you can have more NAs here, somewhere here. What if I want to see them together? So what you do is, you go and select this table, you put the filter here. How to put the filter? Data, filter. You put the filter here. When you hover your mouse, you can also see the shortcut key, which is Ctrl+Shift+L. Well, I'm not here to talk about the this shortcut key. First, let's make comfortable with the filter part. Now, once you have the filter, you go in the status, uncheck all, go to the last, and say that you want to find only NA. That is how it is. You can filter it. Now you can copy this, you can put it somewhere else. If I have to use the shortcut key, there are several shortcut keys. I use Alt D, F and F. I go here, Alt D, FF. Alt D, FF in a sequence, right? Without any pause. Alt D, FF. I want to remove it. Alt D, FF. Now let's say if you put the filter Alt D, FF, and now you want to expand this filter without clicking here with the mouse like this. You go and press Alt down arrow, and this drop down comes. Okay. Now let's say what I do is, with the down arrow I uncheck this. Let's say press enter. This is how it is. If I press Alt D, FF now, Alt D, FF, now it is gone. If I press Alt D, FF again, it is coming. If I press Alt D, FF again, gone. Alt D, FF, Alt down arrow. Now only down arrow to go down. If you don't want to use your mouse, you put the filter. Now you want to come back to the original situation without removing the filters. I mean, filter should be there, but having the show all status. So Alt DFS. Alt DFS will still keep the filters on. It will not remove the filters. But the data which you had selected, customized data, that will not come there. So what you saw, Alt down arrow key to expand filter, but you must go to first that cell. For example, if I click Alt down here, this is what I will get, this one. If I go here and I press filter, I'll get this. This is how it is. Okay, and then Alt D F S. To show all the data, but filter arrows remains active. That's how it is. Okay guys, so thank you so much. I'll see you in the next chapter. Bye bye.